Welcome back to the Calling Our Shot podcast. I'm Austin, joined by Logan, and we are back. We took a week break last week, but we are back for episode 26 of our weekly podcast, posted every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Logan, how are you doing today? We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but first, how are you doing after that week off?
Yeah, a little. I missed it. I'm not even going to lie to you. I missed it. Recharged a little bit. I know you had an amazing trip out of town. You're going to talk about it, of course. But I'm doing well. Of course, probably not as well as you are. Austin had some big news. Why don't you tell the people what happened?
Yeah, it was a big week, and I did miss the podcast, miss talking to you every Tuesday night because we do this. And also, as a side note, if you want to subscribe, click that like button down below. We would appreciate it. Yeah, it was a pretty busy week, as you know, as a lot of people on Twitter and in the videos. If you watch our daily NBA videos, you would know I did get engaged, so that's an exciting kind of thing to go down. So definitely keep watching those ads. We're going to need that revenue. But either way, we appreciate everyone that's kind of reached out and said kind words to us. We definitely do appreciate it. So yeah, it's been exciting. It's been crazy. Really, it's hard to put into words because it just happened, I think, 2 days ago, coming on tomorrow on Thursday. But yeah, it's been hectic. Excited for that day to come for you, but it's kind of a whirlwind, as I'm sure people out there that have gone through that kind of experience kind of know. It's like you kind of lose sight of your body. You're like, you don't really know what's happening until a couple minutes afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, look, as your friend since middle school, seeing a friend, hit a milestone like this in their life, I'm really proud of you. Like I'll say it in front of the people. I'm proud of you. The boy has become a man. He's transitioning, and it's really cool. And I'm really happy for you guys. One of my favorite couples. I longtime friends. So it's really good. Really happy for you. And what you said about the revenue and calling our shot. Look, there's no better way to support calling our shot than becoming a COS All-Star and help us get our bank accounts up a little bit, because Austin, that ring was not cheap. I saw the ring on her finger. You spared no expense. But you know what, COS All-Stars, help a boy out. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the ring, I mean, we spent a couple units. We had a great February for the NBA. So it was like, oh, yeah, you might as well spend up a little bit. But yeah, we do appreciate, literally, there's been so many people that have commented, just even like a couple days after, even like today, people will say congrats on the engagement kind of thing. So yeah, it's awesome. People are like asking when the wedding is. Trust me, I don't know. I'll let you guys know. I won't let you know the location, though. We don't need any, maybe a COS MVP could come to the wedding. Who knows?
Are you dropping hints? Ooh.
We're dropping hints. Maybe in April. Maybe you'll find out a little bit more about what we got cooking up and on the stove. But either way, we are back for the weekly podcast. If you want to do us a favor, and I might ask for a couple favors every day, but if you want to go follow us on social media, that would be awesome. We are at Calling Our Shot on basically every single platform. We would appreciate that. And then what else is there to cover? I don't think there is too much. Just keep showing love. We really do appreciate it. But we had an interesting week. Normally, we're talking about NFL. Not a lot of NFL talk today. We will talk a little bit about two quarterbacks that are in the news every single day, it seems like. But I kind of wanted to transition to talking about the NBA. And I'd argue if you flip onto ESPN, I could guarantee you within 20 minutes, they'll be talking about James Harden and Joel Embiid, because it has been all over social media. If they play, which they do play today against my New York Knicks, once again, I guarantee it'll be all over them, all over ESPN nonstop. And I want to hear your thoughts, because obviously we've talked about this we talked about this as in our last podcast episode 2 weeks ago. We talked about the trade, and we're kind of thinking, what's this going to look like? And I think through 2 games, it's looked better than a lot of people anticipated. But I mean, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this trade, and the Sixers' future coming with the playoffs coming up in a couple weeks.
Right. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, like when it immediately, happened, the news, and we kind of talked about Ben Simmons. But you know what? I want to talk about the Sixers in this one, because they are showing that I really do believe they're the firm winners of this trade, because they got an absolute bona fide all-star in James Harden, which I think will put them over the top and what they need to compete for the Eastern Conference title. I mean, look, Joel Embiid, odds-on MVP. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but I mean, it's Joel Embiid playing at that super high level, and you give him an all-star guard that can pretty much do it all. I mean, James Harden, he's proven. That's what we like. That's what I think Sixers fans, I got a pulse in the city. They want somebody that's proven. They want a proven winner. And James Harden, say what you want. Maybe he comes up small in big moments in the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, you know what? Ben Simmons came up even smaller. So you instantly upgraded in a way that Ben Simmons could never give you, and their chemistry already being teammates for not even that long. They look like they've been playing for a while. I mean, it's not really like they're missing a beat.
No, Harden's looked awesome. Him and Embiid. I mean, Embiid's been fun at the press conferences. The press conference is kind of saying, I've never been this open," and he's kind of true because they don't have a lot really. It was mostly a lot of isolation, so it's fun to see him get some easy buckets. And who knows, we'll probably be hammering his overs the rest of the season. Definitely not rebounds. If you know, you know. But yeah, it's been a cool kind of transition, and I don't really want to talk too much about the Nets because we don't really know. I mean, that team's in a spiral downhill. If you're talking about the Knicks being bad, the Nets have been even worse over the past couple of weeks, but they should be getting Durant back, and they'll probably hopefully get Kyrie Irving back, as he's still half-time, part-time, whatever you may call it. I don't know if Ben Simmons is going to play this year. It seems like he has some back issues now, so we'll see about that. But just the connection between James Harden and Joel Embiid. I mean, people love the Ben Simmons to Joel Embiid connection. Everyone knows Ben Simmons was a great passer. Everyone just kind of said he just wasn't aggressive enough, and when he was aggressive, they were super good. But with Harden, it's like you can't go under screens because he can shoot the ball. And then if you go over the screen, it's just a 1-on-2 with him and Embiid driving to the rim, and the center has to make a decision. And normally the center helps on Harden, and then Embiid gets it and foul. I mean, that's what the Knicks were doing, as every single player fouled out for him. But I'm excited for him. It's going to be interesting to see how far they can go in the postseason. I know a lot of Philly fans are really excited for tonight's opening matchup, home opener for Harden. And I think it's going to be bumping in that arena. But it's exciting, and I kind of wanted I don't know if there's really too much more to add. I mean, you can watch any single talk show and they'll talk about it for 3 hours long. We're not going to do that, but I do want to talk about kind of transition into NBA futures. And now obviously the Sixers are one of those teams up at the top in terms of to win the NBA finals. And I wanted to give to use this segment to give not only one our favorite future pick for the NBA, the team we think should win the NBA finals. And then I want to give a dark horse pick. So I'm going to let you start it off, and we'll give the dark horse pick after this.
I appreciate you letting me go first because, I'm the futures guy over here, right? I almost got the Bengals. Almost. I did get the Rams if you go back a little bit, in time in the episodes. But you know what? Let's try our hand at NBA in this one. Scrolling through the futures, you can look at realistic and then you can look at value. I know we're going to talk a little bit about our dark horse pick as well, but we want to start, if we're just looking at who I think is going to win or could win. How about the Milwaukee Bucks plus 650? Yes, the defending NBA champions. I mean, they're proven and led by Giannis. I mean, what more can we say about the Greek Freak? I mean, you love wearing that Greek Freak shirt, more than any. That's your favorite piece of clothing. You probably wash it 3 times
besides
a week.
calling our shop merch, but yeah.
This is true. I mean, if you watch Austin's videos, you probably see him in the Greek Freak shirt. I mean, it's smart betting money on a team and players that are proven. I mean, Chris Middleton, he's proven. I mean, these are players that got the job done. And Giannis, I mean, I whenever I watch him, I just find myself at a loss for words because he's one of those basketball players, rare breed, that can go across all eras. Like I forget which NBA legend recently said it, that Giannis could have played back in the 80s and 90s, even when it was a different brand of basketball. Yeah, he would have had no problem because he's just that gifted, that talented. So he's presenting, problems offensively, defensively on the rest of the Eastern Conference. And I mean, look at what they did, against Phoenix last year. I'm just saying, plus 650, you're giving me great value on a proven champion to repeat. Why not?
There's no person here that's going to fight you on that because I love Giannis. I love the Bucks. I'm a little bit concerned. Chris Middleton really hasn't looked like himself. A little bit like hangover from the finals when he looked really good in the finals. Like the last couple of games, he was lights out. A little bit concerned about him, but I mean, they're getting a little bit healthier. They haven't had Brook Lopez all season long, so we'll see about that. Bobby Portis is playing, in my opinion, a little bit too much. Not that there's bad playing Mr. Portis and Crazy Eyes, but they won't have any backups behind him. I guess they traded for Serge Ibaka, which is a decent move. But, I mean, I don't want to bet against Giannis because it's sometimes hard to stop him. But I'm going to go to a team that lost to them in the NBA Finals. I think the Suns have great value. It's been around plus 430, plus 450 the past couple of days. And sure, they're the odds-on favorite at the moment. I think tied around with the Warriors. And I just really like this team. I know Chris Paul will be out for the next 6 or so weeks with a thumb injury. And so I will kind of line him up a week or two before the postseason starts. But I just think this team has a lot of talent and a lot of, they tasted that victory. All those young guys finally tasted that victory last year, but I think they're coming back even hungrier. But I think the Suns, I don't worry about Chris Paul showing up. He's going to show up. Great closer. Devin Booker, great scorer. The guy, and I hate mentioning him, it's going to come down to DeAndre Ayton, and you and I both know it. DeAndre Ayton is the guy that will change how they win. If they're going to have to be relying on JaVale McGee and Bismack Biyombo to play big minutes, they're not winning the finals. But if they can get a motivated and just an engaged DeAndre Ayton, this team has everything they can. They got Mikal Bridges, great defender, Jay Crowder, great defender, Cam Johnson. They got a deep 7 or 8 rotation, much deeper than I think a lot of teams in the NBA. So I really like the Suns. The value is not necessarily the best on the page, but I think they are the best team. They've been that all season long. They probably will have home court advantage, or at least be the 1 or 2 seed going into the playoffs. And I just don't want to bet against Chris Paul. As a fan, I want Chris Paul to get a championship. I wasn't mad when Giannis beat him, but I think he's due one.
I mean, right. So your case is really compelling. And, honestly, to maybe like somebody that hasn't followed the Suns as closely, I was wondering, why are they the odds on favorite? It's just kind of weird. You did lay out a really compelling case of why they should probably come out, of the West. I mean, look, that they might have an easier path. I mean, who would be their stiffest opposition? Probably Golden State, right?
I mean, see, that's the thing is I don't really want to bash Golden State. I just think they're overvalued in my opinion. The Warriors, we've seen Klay Thompson return, hasn't looked, 100% himself. And sure, he could turn it around and like that. He could become Klay Thompson old, where he's averaging 22, 25 points a night. He hasn't looked great. Draymond Green has missed a ton of time. He should be returning in a couple weeks. And we're going to revisit these picks, as I believe the playoffs start in like 5-7 weeks, around like mid-April, late April. So we'll revisit our picks then. But yeah, the Warriors would be your stiffest competition. Behind that, I mean, the Lakers, yikes. The Jazz are always up there. You got the Grizzlies, who are an interesting team, a team that's been very good at times, that loses games that it's like, why are you losing to those teams? I mean, the Nuggets are obviously there too. There's some, I would say the East is a lot harder, but we'll talk about some of our dark horses there. But I don't know. I think the Suns, they have the best record in the NBA, or they might be tied with Golden State at the moment. I don't know. I just really like that team. And I think they got a lot of experience from last year, a lot of things to learn from. But I hate trusting DeAndre. And so that would be the only thing that'd be like, I'd throw out I don't love that guy. Cause man, he just, some games he's like, hey, here's 5 points and 3 rebounds. How you like it?
Yeah, a little bit unmotivated at times. I know he's cost you and the community some pain, some headaches before, but I really do want to see how, because we're doing this so far out, I want to see how the value changes. I want to see who's the risers and who falls, because I mean, there's a lot of volatility to these, bets, a lot more. And I mean, honestly, a lot of money to be made if you just guess correctly, kind of. But yeah,
no, 100%, because injuries can happen, and we could kind of shift. Well, before we get into the dark horse pick, we could kind of talk about like an MVP favorite. I mean, right now it's Joel Embiid. He's like plus 110, and I don't necessarily know. I mean, I could make a case for Joel Embiid, and there's a reason he's the odds-on favorite. But we saw him as the odds-on favorite last year, and then he got injured. So there's injuries that still, we don't wish an injury upon anyone, but injuries happen, and it could happen within the next week or so. It could happen to anyone, and that just plummets their odds. We saw Joel Embiid, the favorite. Boom, he got injured. He was out so much time, and Nikola Jokic ended up taking away. I should be wearing my Joker shirt.
Yeah, well, I mean that's exactly what I was looking at when I was thinking about volatility, though, because it's just crazy to look at MVP odds too and track that. And Steph Curry was the odds-on favorite to me not too long ago, and boom, Joel Embiid out of nowhere and plus 110. I mean, that's not great value, but you know what? I want to definitely lead off to my MVP pick. If I'm just looking at one, I have to go with Giannis. Logan, you're just doubling down on your Bucks. I mean, I love Giannis for the value, with hovering in that plus 650-ish range. I mean, if you're gonna say somebody outside of Joel Embiid has to win it, yeah, why not Giannis? A proven MVP, a proven NBA champion. I mean, I know it's a narrative award, and what if the Bucks, make a sneaky run? I don't know where their playoff position.
Well, that's the reason I think you have a chance for Giannis. Now, it's hard for them to reward guys. I mean, we saw LeBron; they just kind of stopped giving it to him, and not that Giannis is at that level where it's like, okay, this guy has won too many MVPs, but the Bucks are kind of lower in the standings than you might think. The reigning NBA champions. They normally were like the 1 or 2 seed the past couple seasons. Right. They're kind of, I think, hovering around the 5 seed. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bucks kind of crank it up a notch and just kind of try to, win, I don't know, 15 of their next like 17 games and go on a crazy run. And maybe Giannis is the one that leads them to that.
Exactly, and that's kind of what my point. If they make a push to get that 1 seed, or even maybe 2 seed, and it's just on the back of Giannis, as you mentioned, kind of Chris Middleton hasn't really rounded into form. It's gonna be on the Greek Freak. So I love Giannis, and I mean he's a glitch. You've used that word. You've used that word for him. Because how are you going to stop him? It's unreal. If they could really give it to him. I appreciate what you said about LeBron, because there's certain players in the NBA you can make a case for them every single season because they're just at that high level. But you know what? It's a little bit of a narrative award, and if the Sixers slip up a little bit, and as you said, maybe injuries happen. Who knows? But yeah, it's decent value, so I like it enough at that.
Yeah, and then I would like to talk about one other guy that I think, you could make a case. I don't think he personally will win it, but Ja Morant, I know a lot of people have been talking about his value at plus 1,200, obviously coming off a career high 52 points. The game before that set a career high 46 points, I think. So he's been putting the team on his back. I mean, if he's out, the Grizzlies are kind of, but he's really just been carrying the team. And I really think the only way Ja Morant somehow goes into that top, 2-3 conversation, if he goes on that Damian Lillard-esque run that we saw, a couple years back, maybe pre-bubble, right before the pandemic, where Dame Lillard was averaging his per 10 game stats were like 47 points per game. I mean, you remember it.
Yeah,
we were just hammering his
unreal.
overs. They would make it 38.5. And we'd say, bet.
Yeah, it was
I don't
unreal.
care. That was probably the most ridiculous run I've ever seen. And I don't know if Ja Morant will get to that because, he's not as big of a 3-point shooter as maybe Dame Lillard is, but Ja Morant's been ridiculous. So if you want someone to just put like a buck or two on, I don't mind Ja Morant. I just don't know if it will happen. You're asking you might as well just bet his over in points every single night if you think he's got a chance at MVP, because he's going to have to hit that at least 10 times, 12 times. Then by then you'll win back whatever you put on the plus 1,200.
Yeah, it could be I don't know. Ja Morant kind of just feels like a bit of a too square of an MVP pick, because it's like something you're willing and wanting to happen, but just doesn't feel right. Like he makes all the highlight reels, he makes all the ESPN, Sports Center. He makes top plays, but top plays doesn't necessarily translate to MVPs. I don't know. A lot would have to happen.
It's hard to really envision. I mean, he's having a ridiculous season, so it's kind of hard to envision how does Ja Morant get better. And I'm sure there's plenty of things he can get better at, but it's kind of like with Trae Young. What does Trae Young need to do to win an MVP? I mean, his stats are there. Could the Hawks use maybe winning like 65 games or something ridiculous like that? Yeah, maybe that's what Ja Morant needs, but their stats are ridiculous. It's not really that's holding them back. I think it's team success. It just feels like a Joel Embiid's obviously award to lose. It seems like that's the narrative they want to give it to Joel Embiid after, he was the leader last year. And then obviously, he's been putting on the team on his back. And I kind of want to, and let me go back to James Harden and Joel Embiid and talk about Tobias Harris, because I imagine this team, and not that Tobias Harris has got to come into form. I think he's been terrible the last 2 games with Harden active, but Tobias Harris, dude, the amount of money they're paying him for,
I know.
Yikes. I mean, can you imagine if you were one, either you'd split that amount of money onto 2 great role players, or one had another great star to go along with them. This team might be really overpowered. So Tobias Harris is, I think, an X factor for him, but Tyrese Maxey's been playing super well. I don't know. Sixers are a weird team. I didn't check their NBA Finals odds, but I think it's plus 700 right behind the Bucks. But there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot going down in the NBA.
Yeah, no, there's always if you talk with Sixers fans as I do all the time, they're always ragging on Tobias Harris for good reason, right? You're being paid all that money to underperform, and they always talk about that. Like it's easy to praise Harden and praise Embiid for what they've been doing, but then it's like that guy over there is not doing anything. He's just reaping the benefits. He's on the group project. And the group project got an A, and he just signed his name at the top of the paper, right? And they're not going to get anywhere in the playoffs if he doesn't step up. I mean, it really is kind of going to be, as you mentioned, he is going to be the X factor. If he's throwing up building brick houses with his mid range ain't working. I mean, that's Tobias Harris's game. It's the mid range, and yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
He is who he is. That's what he's been all season long. I want you to go into your dark horse finals pick though. Lay it
Yeah,
down for people.
let's talk value as we always do on this program, and we love value. And I want to go in the Eastern Conference. I know this conference is a little bit of a bloodbath. We mentioned Sixers, Bucks. You know, there's teams that could win it, but I just looked at there and I said, is there a team on here that's, you know, had a good regular season so far, is in the top, you know, upper echelon of Eastern Conference teams, and could maybe win it all? How about the Chicago Bulls? Plus 2,700. You know what? Led by DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan has been making a lot of people picking his overs, some money recently. And you know, say what you want about the Chicago Bulls. They're a young team, you know, up and coming. Maybe it's not their time yet, but maybe they do catch a little bit of fire, a la the Phoenix Suns, right? To me, you know, I don't study the Suns in depth, but I didn't really see what they did last year. I didn't see that coming, right? Could the Chicago Bulls, with a great free agent pickup in DeMar DeRozan, could they be this year's Phoenix Sun? I ask you that, and I'm like, why not? I mean, why not? You know, God forbid an injury happens to one of the stars of, you know, the other Eastern Conference teams. But I'm just saying, sometimes in the NBA, weird breaks happen. You catch fire at the right time. I'm just saying, 2,700 is really generous odds for a team that's performed well, you know, up to this point.
Yeah, you know, I remember a lot of episodes back, a team that I claimed was overrated was the Chicago Bulls. And you know, I might want to take that back a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think the Bulls, they have a chance. Now, I won't rule them out. They obviously have, I think, one of the top 1 or 2 records in the East. My only concern with them, they're not getting anywhere unless they get fully back healthy in terms of Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball. I know you hear Caruso, you're like, okay, you're just memeing, but those are 2 guys that really played good defense. And this team, and I've ragged on them over the last several weeks, several really months when they've been without those guys because they don't play any defense. And that's my only concern for this team. They can score. DeMar DeRozan's been playing great. Zach LaVine's great, obviously. Kobe White off the bench, solid. They just can't stop anyone. Vucevic is not stopping Joel Embiid. That's just a mismatch and a half. And that's my only concern is when they get against the Bucks, who the heck's guarding Giannis? They aren't stopping him. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned where I could look like, and I know there's not a lot of value on the Heat, and they're not my pick because they're only like plus 1,000. But the Heat can stop Giannis. The Giannis does not play well against the Heat because they got Bam Adebayo. But I just don't know how the Bulls match up too well against those other teams. Like they got Javante Green.
Yeah.
You're probably like, who the hell is Javante Green? And I don't blame you. But I just don't know how they match up. That's my only concern. They have Patrick Williams, who's a very good second-year guy, but he's been out the whole year, and I think he's out for the season. So a little bit concerning. I would like to see them get those guys back in terms of Caruso and at least Lonzo Ball, and even Derrick Jones Jr. He's a pretty good defender too. They're going to need those guys back to have any chance of advancing in the Eastern Conference. But, you know, I don't hate the value plus 2,700. You're just asking for a chance. I wouldn't be surprised if that value got a little bit better as the next month and a half goes by because they're going to still stay at the top of the Eastern Conference. And all it takes is them to win one playoff series against a trash team. And then they're moving and grooving. Exactly. But the worst case scenario would be if, the top 3 teams are, let's say, the Bulls, the Bulls, the Heat, and the Sixers, and then at 4 or 5 is the Bucks, and then whoever's the 1 seed, you honestly don't even want to be the 1 seed because you'll win your round, then you get the Bucks in the second round most likely. Even the Nets are going to be a weird team because they've lost so many games. They're at the bottom of the top 7, 8, 10. They're in that range. So weird to go in the Eastern Conference, which is why I'm staying far away and I'm going to the Western Conference and I'm going for value plus 3,500. They got a guy that you could argue could win the MVP award too. Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I understand this is very LeBron 2007 in terms of I got to do everything. And, Luka's really been doing everything. But the thing I like about this Mavericks team is we saw last year, they were decent. They competed against the Clippers, who I think the Clippers ended up advancing to ended up going to the Western Conference Finals after beating the Jazz. Even though that Clippers team was a little bit banged up, they did have Kawhi Leonard, and then, he got injured the next round. They kind of hung with him, and that was just the Luka team. They had Kristaps Porzingis, and we were betting his unders every single night because Kristaps was putting APB out for him. He was just standing on the three-point line, just waving and doing nothing. And so I look at him. They got rid of Kristaps, which might impact them a little bit defensively, but they got a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie, a guy that I think the thing that really holds the Mavericks back, and you think about that LeBron team that he took to the finals back in 2007. By no means am I comparing LeBron and Luka. Very similar scenarios, though, in my opinion. LeBron had no one else that could do anything. it was just him, and when he went out, they lost by 10 points every single time. And so I think with Spencer Dinwiddie, with Jalen Brunson, those are two guys that can actually run the offense without Luka Doncic, whether that's only like 8 to 10 minutes a game in the playoffs. I just like the value of plus 3,500. Should they win it? Absolutely not. They're definitely a little bit short on talent in terms of, they don't have as much talent as the Suns. They don't have as much talent as a team like the Warriors or even the Jazz, if we were to argue about the Jazz. But they will have the best player on the court pretty much at all times, unless they play maybe the Nuggets. And really, there's not many players better than Luka in the league. So I like the value on the Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, how do I argue against Luka? I mean, Luka, boy wonder, can do it all. I mean, it's the value, like you said. I mean, a lot of things obviously have to happen, like for a plus 3,500, mid-season type of play to cash. But I've seen crazier. I mean, we have seen, just heroic performances, as you mentioned with LeBron. I don't know. I'm not here to rag on your pick. I like it, and for all the reasons you explained, I think you're kind of smart, getting out of the East. I'm not even going to lie to you. As you kind of broke down the potential playoff seeding, I'm like, ooh, yeah, the East doesn't sound
It's going to be
great.
super tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant are active.
Yeah.
There's a lot of I mean, I would argue there's probably 6 teams in the East that have a chance, and in the West, I would say maybe it's definitely not 6. I mean, there's
Yeah.
teams that you could say, maybe, but I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm interested to see. We can track the Mavs regular season
100%. We'll
too.
see what our value picks are in a week or so, or not in a week, but in like 4, 5, 6 weeks, we'll see exactly if our plays are maybe Mavericks are plus 6,000 by the next time we do this. But
Could be.
I like the pick. I like the Bulls pick. We'll see how they trend over the next couple weeks. On a somber note, got to talk about the MLB deadline, and it's not a trade deadline. I wish that's what it was. Unfortunately, today's Tuesday when we're recording. As of this exact moment, 9:25 p.m. Well, one, they didn't come to an agreement, so I believe the first 2 series of the season was canceled. So obviously, opening day was supposed to be the last day of the month, March 31st. We were getting excited. We got some fun things planned for our MLB daily videos, but we're gonna have to wait a little bit. And the people are asking for you. People are like, "Where's Logan? Is he okay? Did you fire him? Where is he?" And I'm like, "No, he's just watch the podcast." One, we thank you guys for watching the podcast, but I'm like, "Dog, no, he's still here. He's just out of season."
I'm still employed by Calling Our Shot. I will let you know. I will let you know that I'm still stealing a little bit of Austin's
Will you make
pennies.
your own YouTube channel and kind of clickbait it?
Yeah. I have not yet branched off of the Calling Our Shot community. I haven't made my own channel yet, but it's baseball time. Last year we kind of went through this whole, I did. Like, it was a solo grind, and I loved it. I hated it. People that were on the roller coaster with me, they saw me dejected, but I was looking so forward to this baseball season, because I had a full season pretty much of picks under my belt, and you and I were going to tag team, and we had a lot, in store. And now we're just, the door slammed in our face. We were getting ready. The thing I love about baseball so much is it signifies winter, the cold up north, it turning into spring. And it's just that bright, sunny feeling of a ballpark, fresh cut grass, enjoying a hot dog. I mean, I'm painting the picture of why baseball's so great, and why, it's just one of those, to me, one of those top sporting events to go to. And the MLB, the players, I'm not privy to the talks, and quite honestly, it's boring. It's boring as heck to try to read what's going on in the negotiations. That's not for me to hash out. But what I know as a fan perspective, and even the betting perspective, I'm gonna have to wait significantly a lot longer, because I mean, they're not where they need to be, and it's just, I don't know. It's sad, because we were looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I know we'll have some cool things coming forward for the videos. Like, we'll be doing them together, kind of in the same format for the people that are curious. I'll be doing some player props, because you guys know I love those, and Logan will be doing his picks, either over unders or spreads or money lines, whatever it may be, and then we'll do some
nerfies,
a little bit of nerfation, wave the flags. It's gonna be a lot of fun
in sports. See,
it is.
I can't wait for you to educate everybody, because you've amassed such a great NBA following with your picks. You've been killing it. I can't wait for you to educate people on a nerfie like that. That will be so exciting, and show people the most electric bet in sports, and why I, called us Nerfy Nation, and we had a lot of fun with it last year. So dang it, MLB, get it together. There's a lot to work out still, but come on, let's get some baseball going.
Yeah, I got to put the abbreviation down below.
Yes,
Nerfy is
Nerfy,
no run first inning. It's the most electric bet in sports. If you don't know, we'll be doing them hopefully every single day. We might get down bad after a little bit because they are about as unpredictable as you can try. But I'm excited for it. We'll be getting ready for MLB season. Hopefully, it starts up soon. I'm hoping maybe like a mid-April kind of start. Maybe we missed the first 2 weeks of the season. I know they just canceled basically the first week, so. Hopefully there's not. Hopefully it's a little bit of pressure. I don't know all the tea leaves. I don't read all these things. All I know is the owners and players can't come to an agreement. So hopefully that hashes out. Hopefully by the next time we're here on the weekly podcast, that's been hashed out, and we know when the daily videos are going to start, because it's going to be fun. It's going to be a grind, but we're going to have fun with it every single day, and that's all that matters.
It's going to be awesome. Nerfy, I'm telling you guys, it's the most electric bet in sports. If you're new, if you don't know the no run first inning, you're gonna know it, and you're gonna learn to love it. And if you're gonna, I'm gonna spare you this. We're gonna say it a million times. If you come in my comments, you say, Logan, where's the yes run first inning? Where's the Yerfy? No, I will turn you away. I don't do that. It's no run first inning. It's no run first inning or no bet at all for me. So yeah, Nerfy till I die. So.
I love it. So you'll be able to get ready for that for the MLB. But let's wrap up the podcast. It won't be the longest podcast we've ever done. We're gonna talk about two quarterbacks that have been in the news a lot, and we'll start with Aaron Rodgers. The guy that we kind of talked about a couple weeks back, and I'm curious if you have any gauge on what you think he's going to do. He could do something by the time the podcast goes live. I don't think so, but with NFL free agency starting in, I believe, 2 weeks. I believe the first initial day is March 16th. 2 weeks from tomorrow, or 2 weeks from today. Do you have any thoughts on Rodgers? You think he's going back to Green Bay, retiring? What are your kind of initial kind of thoughts?
So he did have a cryptic type Instagram post where a lot of people were assuming that maybe this is a retirement kind of thing. No, I still see Aaron Rodgers playing, and I close my eyes and I still see it in Green Bay, because Green Bay gives him the best chance to win. We talked about, his path in the NFC being easier. I mean, he's got, assuming the Packers could square away Devontae Adams, you bring him back his favorite target. The Packers could go in they could go in a la the Los Angeles Rams. They could just do we're all in, chips to the table for Aaron Rodgers this year, where a lot of other teams couldn't. If Aaron Rodgers were looking elsewhere to like the Broncos, and the Broncos can only go all in as much as they can. I mean, and that's not to me, that's just not attractive to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year. It's just not. And so if I'm Aaron Rodgers, it's really either Green Bay or retirement. That's just me. Again, Aaron Rodgers is a weird cat where I can't get into his head. I have no idea what he's thinking. But
yeah, if he wanted to go to San Francisco, it wouldn't surprise me either. Just because that's where you kind of want. I don't see them doing it, but let's be honest, I'm not really sold on Trey Lance after what I saw in 1 year. But they did spend a lot to get Trey Lance. You kind of want to just give him the keys instead of saying, "Hey, Rodgers, here you go, 2 more years," or whatever it may be. But I kind of agree with you. I think it's Green Bay or bust. I think it's Green Bay or he retires, because while there are options, I wouldn't want to go to the AFC for the reasons you said, and then the NFC doesn't have a ton of options. You don't really want to follow right back up with Tom Brady. San Francisco is another option, but it's like, how realistic of that is an option? And yeah, I think Green Bay, despite their struggles the past couple seasons, they've been very good in the regular season. And then they just can't get it done in the postseason. Maybe there's something they can address there. And I saw a weird article, and I'm going to try do my best to explain it. It was talking about Aaron Rodgers and his risk versus reward kind of thing. And I doubt you saw it, but I'll kind of try to explain it. There was an article that talked about, we know Rodgers, the guy that doesn't throw any interceptions. He very rarely, he leads the league always in I think he has the best touchdown to interception rate out of any QB in NFL history. But with that comes him not taking a lot of risks. So when his team gets down, it's not, and this is what the article was saying with all the data. when teams get down, you see Patrick Mahomes and other guys taking a lot of risks, and that's how they get back into games. But with Rodgers, he doesn't change the way he throws. He's still doing a lot of checkdowns, doing a lot of safe throws, and his expected points doesn't ever increase. At least I believe that's what the metric they were using was like expected points is still the same. Whereas you see guys that get down like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, their expected points, their risk they take is a lot higher. And that's why you see those guys sometimes come back in games. And so, not saying that Rodgers is bad quarterback. He's obviously going to back-to-back MVP. I mean, he's a great quarterback, but I thought it was a little bit interesting of an article. Any thoughts on something like that?
That is really interesting. And now that you kind of mention it, it makes sense because watching Aaron Rodgers, a lot throughout his career, he does seem to always take, what the defense is giving him, even just, when they're down, right? Like the defense is like, sure, beat us, check downs, beat us short routes like that. And he might leave more plays on the field. I feel like that's kind of what the article is saying. Aaron Rodgers leaves plays on the field where maybe like a gunslinger, a true gunslinger quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, like Josh Allen, they're going home run or bust. I mean, and that's I think honestly what the model of the NFL is looking. If you look at a lot of the younger quarterbacks, they for better or worse, they're always trying to go the home run plays. And like look at it. I mean, think about Joe Burrow, Herbert, like even those young quarterbacks, you don't see them take a ton of checkdowns. You don't see them making a lot of those short throws. It's 75-yard T. Higgins touchdown, or bust a lot of times. And so you respect it, but I don't know. It is something I guess to kind of watch for. Maybe in his last, maybe this is actually his last dance, and maybe he'll just go chuck it up, I don't care mode. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the thing, when you think about it, those QBs all want the ball in their hands, and they want their play to be deciding the games. And not saying that Rodgers doesn't want that, but it does seem he's not as he's a lot more carefree. And while that wins a ton of games in the regular season, it can be hard when adversity hits you. And it's not like you think about a Tom Brady. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions either, and he takes a little bit more risk. And obviously, he's retired now. Who knows what's going on with his whole ordeal? I saw Bruce Arians saying, "No chance in heck that we're trading Tom Brady if he wants to come back." It's weird, but we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, it's just like you get down, and he doesn't have the defense that necessarily can, like that Bucs defense when the Bucs really kind of carried Tom Brady through the playoffs. Their defense, at least, kind of carrying him. He has never had that defense, or he has a little bit of a supporting cast. I don't know. An interesting thing. But another guy that could be on the move, Russell Wilson. I think this guy has a better chance of being on the move than probably Rodgers, in my opinion. But we've seen him delete things on all the social media of Seahawks. So we've seen kind of writing on the wall like he might be out of there in Seattle. Do you have any kind of gauge? Do you think he's gone? Do you think he's staying? What do you think's the kind of route for Mr. Russell Wilson? Mr. Unlimited.
I hate that nickname, but I mean, look, prior to Sean Payton retiring or taking a leave, whatever you want to call that, I just closed my eyes and saw him in a Saints uniform to terrorize my Panthers twice a year, and I was just like, I feel like that's coming. Truly though, I don't know where he's going to end up. Like I think anybody's guess is as good as mine. I mean, really cryptically thinking about it, yeah, he might be gone from Seattle, right? Seattle, a lot while I was watching them this year, something just felt off about their team chemistry. Something felt off with Russell Wilson obviously being injured, but it's like maybe a change of scenery is what he's looking for. Maybe it's what he needs. I don't know if there's some sort of list of like odds of where Russell Wilson plays next year. I would love to find that and be curious where the odds makers would put it, because I don't know. I just, a quarterback like that could actually take, like, think about this. Think about if Russell Wilson was on a team like the Titans, right? With Ryan Tannehill stinking it up and looking for the quarterback like Russell Wilson to take them to the next step. There's a lot of teams where that they could add Russell Wilson and he could be the missing piece that they were looking for.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I'm looking to see if there's any odds. I cannot find any. I don't know what to do with Russell Wilson because there's a lot of different places he could go. We think about his wife Sierra. Doubt they want to go to a small market, but I think a couple teams that kind of initially come to mind. Obviously, he could stay with the Seahawks. He could go to the Saints. That wouldn't surprise me much. It's an interesting team, and I doubt this happens. But the New York Giants would be an interesting one. Now I
Yeah.
know it's ew, Giants, ew, but they have the talent with Kadarius Toney, with Kenny Galladay, Saquon Barkley. I
Kenny
mean,
Galladay.
he's not
Who?
he didn't catch a touchdown all year, but and neither did Kadarius Toney, I don't think. But they have talent there, and it's not like their division's terribly difficult. So I don't mind that. I'm looking at an article. The Colts would be an interesting one, but like I said, I don't know if they want to go to a smaller market like that. But that's just my opinion. And obviously the Broncos. But again, I think he would want to stay in the NFC if he could,
Probably.
which would likely mean a team, obviously like the Saints, maybe the Giants. I think the Giants could be a sneaky one. They got Brian Dable, a very good offensive coordinator, and now as their head coach, who kind of grew up with Josh Allen, and so could be interesting. I'm not saying the
Yeah.
Giants are, is likely, and I honestly wouldn't blame him if he said absolutely no to the Giants, but it's New York. Russell Wilson, he loves New York, and you don't want to go to the Jets. I mean, the Giants aren't much better, let's be honest.
If I'm Russell Wilson, I'd rather retire than play for the Giants. And I know that's not, I know that's obviously engaging in hyperbole, but I think it's kind of true. They're in really like weird. They've been in a weird rebuild for like the past 5 years. It seems like they just can't figure it out. Be it injuries, be it coaching. Daniel Jones is probably not the answer. I mean, Daniel Jones is on the Sam Darnold fast track. I mean, come on, let's be real here. He's Sam Darnold that can run better. But I mean, yeah, it wouldn't make any sense. It's a shame. Like I said, I made a really good fit in my head that the Titans would be a good fit, but they're paying Tannehill way too much money. They're stuck with Tannehill. But like the Colts staying in that division, I think the Colts could be really intriguing because they learned in the last regular season when you need a win against the Jaguars, Carson Wentz ain't that guy. That's what they learned. And I mean, the Colts have to have a lot of doubt. And if I were them, I'd be on the phone. Hey, what Russell Wilson, you want to come, play for us? I would make the pitch if I were them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about Russell Wilson, when was he at his best? When he had a great run game with Marshawn Lynch. In the last couple of years with Chris Carson, a bad offensive line, it's been him and trying to chuck it up to DK and Tyler Lockett, just not getting it done.
Exactly.
But the Colts have about as great a supporting cast as you can get with the offensive line and Jonathan Taylor. They could upgrade their wide receivers a little bit, and they could do that in the offseason or the draft.
Yeah.
But the Colts are an interesting, sneaky team. Now, it is in the AFC, but Jay, I would assume every single Colts fan, and though I watch the Pat McAfee show from time and time again, they'd be ecstatic if they got Russell Wilson.
Absolutely.
Whether some people might not like him or not, but whenever you can get rid of Carson Wentz, when they call him Carl on their show, I have no idea why, but whenever you can get Carson Wentz out of there and get Russell Wilson, I think you're going to take it any single day you can.
It would put them into like right now the Colts are like in the back of my head I'm like they got no shot. Like they've got talent, and you mentioned that they do have a lot of talent, but
their defense is good too.
And the defense is really good. That's what I'm saying. They play in a weak division. Like they should be a shoe-in for a top seed. If that. And then it's like if you put a proven winner like Russell Wilson, a leader, because like Carson Wentz, I don't know how much of the locker room he galvanizes. I mean, we talked about Kyler Murray and galvanizing his team and yada yada, but like Russell Wilson, you put him on the Colts and you have my attention. Now I'm like, oh, like that's a good
televised.
fit. Yeah, I mean, it almost, like this is why the NFL never works how the fans think it should work, because it makes a lot of sense in our head. And then he goes to a team that like the Giants or something that doesn't make any sense. You're like, why? But like, I don't know. This is the NFL. Things that make sense usually don't happen.
And it's not like the Colts aren't used to making those moves. I mean, 2 years ago, they did the Phillip Rivers, then they did the Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, it would be an interesting kind of route to just go, from Andrew Luck to like Jacoby Brissett, then to Phillip Rivers. A very weird kind of collection of QBs there, but hey, they've shown the ability to do it in the past. I'm sure if he comes available and he's open to going to Indy, it's an interesting fit that, I'd be wanting to tune into Colts games. Right now with Carson Wentz, I switched the channel. I just hope they don't come up on red zone. And when they do, I'm just like, just get it in the end zone, Jonathan Taylor, and get me the heck out of here. But with Russell Wilson there, it could be fun. Gives them a little bit. I mean, we saw them make the playoffs and give the Bills, I think, a run for their money in the first round of the playoffs that year. So I think they could be in the conversation, but we'll see. It's interesting. Who knows what Russell Wilson will do? I don't think he can be moved for another 2 weeks.
No, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Well, I hope maybe we see a change of scenery for him, but you know, you never know with it being so early in this.
Yeah, it's fun to see a change of scenery. It feels like there's so much change of scenery in the NBA and then little to none in the NFL. It's almost like you just
Yeah.
wish there was a little bit of more, a little bit more in one league, a little bit less in the other. But either way, that's going to wrap it up for the podcast. Anything else you want to add on before we get out of here, Logan?
No, it's been a great episode as usual. So
I agree with that. This is our 26th episode. It is in March. March 26th is my birthday, so we're all going to have good luck today. We appreciate you guys for tuning into the weekly podcast. We'll be back again next Wednesday. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you want to let us know what you want us to talk about next week, feel free to let us know. We can talk about anything. We can talk about diamond rings. We can talk about whatever you guys want. That's what this podcast is all about. So we appreciate you guys. Click that subscribe button, click that like button. We're grinding to 30,000 subscribers, trying to make March our biggest month yet. So again, this has been Austin for Logan, and we will catch you guys again next week. Thanks for tuning into the Call in Our Shot podcast. We'll catch you guys next week.